So I really do think that this practice that we're going to share about in just a moment really has helped us to do just that, not just be there for each other in a deeper way or to have more personal fulfillment, but to really be more of a gift for others, both individually and as a family, which I just feel like is what it's all about.
Welcome to This Whole Life, a podcast for all of us seeking sanity and sanctity, and a place to find joy and meaning through the integration of faith and mental health. I'm Kenna Millay, a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I'm with my husband, Pat Millay, a Catholic speaker, musician, and leader. We invite you to our kitchen table. Okay, not literally, but you're definitely invited into the conversations that we seem to keep having once the kids have scattered off to play and we're left doing the dishes. We're excited to share this podcast for educational purposes. It is not intended as therapy or as a substitute for mental health care. So let's get talking about this whole life.
I'm not gonna stand here with my friends down and
Welcome back to This Whole Life podcast. It is so good to be back with you all, doing what we love to do, which is just talking about the stuff that real life is made of. Welcome back, my darling love.
Hello.
Here to our hot summery attic recording. And I also want to welcome you, Andy Norton, our esteemed guest
Thanks
this
for having
evening.
me.
Yeah.
Greetings, my good man. How you doing?
Doing great. I'm loving the warm room up here. It's great.
Just so you all know, Andy has declared that he loves to sweat for a good cause.
My hands are sweating already. It's great. It's great.
And he has deemed This Whole Life podcast as a worthy cause.
Yes.
So we are here to provide, Andy, your sweating opportunity on this steamy day in the middle of summer.
Yeah, encouraging mental health and trying to get rid of water weight.
Exactly.
That's great. Mind, body, soul. Yep.
No water retention here. So good to be with both of you gentlemen. And Andy, especially you. I mean, truly, since the beginning of the podcast, we have talked about having you on and finally have whittled down like what it would be that we would start speaking with you on. So excited to share with our listeners about what you and your wife, Sarah, have developed as Integrated Pathfinding. But first, highs and hards, my gentlemen, I'm going to let our guest go first.
Great.
Yes, sir.
Let us into your life a little bit, Mr.
Yes,
Norton.
So excited to be a part of the highs and hards of this episode. So, hi, I just came back from playing Frisbee. It was like perfect. I was scheduled to do this, and then I've been on this like email list to play Frisbee for like 2 years, and it, like literally, I've never gone to it. And
that is a long time coming.
Seriously. So then I got the reminder like this morning, and it said 6:30 at Harmon Park, and I was just like, "That's right by them. Like this is perfect." And so I went, and it was awesome. I love Frisbee. It's so life-giving. I hadn't done it in so long. And after 5 minutes, I thought I was going to die. Like my asthma was crazy. It was killing me, like truly killing me. And I was like, I need to be like not just wheezing through this podcast in an hour. So but I had a great time. I slowed down. And then right before I left, I just like, took all the stops and just like went crazy and scored two touchdowns, and it was so fun.
That's awesome.
So
Hence the red face when you
so
literally
red, yeah.
came in hot.
Me
to
and my
our
son
house,
Maddie,
yeah.
like whenever we exercise, we get like red as a tomato. Yeah, so that's how I am right now. So, but use some deodorant and changed my shirt. And I'm all good. So that was my high. Honestly, like that was just such a fun time. I loved that. So. But just with that, it's just enjoying summer has been great. The hard, I would say, has been a few weeks ago, we took out 3 ash trees on our property, and a bunch of people in the neighborhood had to do the same thing. But they had just gotten, the ash, like borer.
The emerald ash borer,
yeah, exactly.
Parasite.
Yeah.
So they had just hit the whole neighborhood, and so there's like all the big trees on our property. And I just felt so bad. Like, first and foremost, I felt like Saruman or something, like, rip them all down,
I appreciate that you looked in my direction
Yes,
when
yeah,
you made that
yes.
reference.
I'm like,
because
I have-
you know darn well no one on that side of the table knows what you're talking about.
Is this Marvel? Is it Lord of the
This
Rings?
would be Lord of the Rings.
Okay,
There you
okay,
go.
okay.
See,
Yeah.
you were good.
The voice
Yes,
tipped me off.
yes.
The accent. Okay.
Yes, they ripped down trees. Tolkien was just all about nature and and Saruman represented just tearing down trees and tearing down nature, and so I feel like I'm a part of that, even though like they had to come down. And then additionally, like for me, home ownership and like yard care is like a huge place of insecurity for me. And so having taken those down, I'm just very self-conscious about the yard, and we haven't yet found a perfect solution for the spaces like where the trees were. And so that's just been like an annoyance. Like I don't want to be in the yard type of deal. And so that's been hard, and I guess it's been a good struggle. Like I've struggled through it and been like, no, I need to accept that this is the way it is, and I'll find a solution for these spaces in the yard. But like that's just a space that where I've been, I still have work to do in terms of being at peace with who I am as a homeowner, and not being so self-conscious about any time that I'm falling behind the Smiths, so right. Which is common often. So that's me. That's
why I fantasize about townhouse life.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Someone else take care of it all.
Like outsource that.
Yeah, absolutely.
HOAs are a pain until somebody takes care of your yard. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
That's me. That's
thank
me.
you.
Ladies first before me.
Yeah,
Take it away.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to go with my hard first, which is, I think, Pat, probably over the last 2 days, I've just like looked at you across the dining room table, which is, wild. I mean, it is a 3-ring circus, y'all, at dinner time, especially in the summer. Like, it's like the wild, wild west around here. Also, our nanny is out of town this week. So the kids, I think, smell like this lack of structure this week. And
they're weak. It's our moment.
And I said to you the other, like, I just need a date night with you, Pat. Like, just really longing for time away. That's not focused on housework, yard work, projects around here. Also not focused on work. This shared, endeavor we have with the Martin Center, and just like really longing for that date. And we have one on the calendar this weekend, but there's like a lot of stuff I have to do like before I get there. And so the heart is just like when you have that goal, on the horizon, and you also know like I got to put in the work and I got to live life well, like to get there. And so just, being patient and anticipating that, and kind of living on the hope of what is to come, which is the Christian life. But just like really looking forward to that. So, that would be the hard. And then I would say the high, we're just a couple weeks into summer break for our kids, and yes, it is chaos, and they smell the weakness, but also it's an opportunity for like new structure and new goals, and just it's a time of transition and acknowledging like how the kids have grown, how we have grown, and therefore, our family system is capable of things that it wasn't a year ago this time. And so I love it. Like I love goal setting. I love thinking about what's possible. And so one of the things that we've been talking about, particularly with our oldest children, is what goal do you have for summer? What's a skill? What's something that you want to improve upon or tackle? And so one of our kids picked learning to type, keyboarding, learning to word process, document things. And
like it's 1994.
I was like super pumped when he picked that. I was like, yeah, buddy. And then one of our other children picked learning to paint. And so actually, Andy, I don't know if you know this, but
I do know, yes.
Okay, so one of our children is actually going to study under your wife, Sarah, who is responsible for the incredible artwork, the hero image on our website. And so she's going to do a little work study, a little bit of...
Sarah's so excited for that.
Yeah, like watching the Norton kids in exchange for some art instruction. Yep. And so I'm just like excited for them, like this time of relaxation and just endless hours of reading for sure, but also for them to grow, and that summer affords us that opportunity just to be a little bit different than our regular school year. So those are my high and hard. And Pat, what's up with you?
That's awesome. I love that. Yeah, my hard is summer related. And it truly is a hard. It's not a bad thing necessarily, and it's certainly not a low. But Summer is great for a million reasons. I love summer, especially at the end of the school year. We just like we stumble across the finish line. Like we just need summer real bad because we have run out of gas for like checking homework and all that stuff. You know?
I want to make a public apology to all of our children's teachers who still do not have a teacher gift for the end of the year. I will be calling the school soon to get your home address, and you will be receiving a gift card soon. But I'm really
factor
sorry.
is one of those teachers is going to a different assignment as a Dominican sister next year. So.
Hey man, that Hobby Lobby gift card is still going to be good in Michigan.
She'll find a use of it.
But she has a vow of poverty anyway, so whatever. It can't matter that much, right?
So stumbling, we did.
Yes.
Awesome.
So I very much enjoy summer and like the free kind of careless time that it provides, things like that. The challenge is that every week is a little bit different and dicey, and there's a total lack of schedule, right? So like this week was Vacation Bible School for our parish, your and our parish, Andy. And it was good and beautiful. So glad our kids did it. But it throws the whole schedule into upheaval because they're busy every morning. Our nanny was out of town this week, so we had childcare kind of piecemeal here and there. And then there's just the complicating factor of like having 7 children at home all day, every day, right? So it's good in the sense that they have to learn or remember how to navigate conflict and negotiate with each other, things like that.
Yes.
So that's good and necessary. Really glad they have that opportunity, but they have a lot of those opportunities every day, and I see a lot of it. So that's a minor challenge and a hard. My high is you are going to love this. And it's actually going to lead into our episode pretty well, I think, for what we're talking about today. The reason I say you are going to love this, Kenna, I just realized when I say you, you're listening, you have no idea who I'm talking about. You that I am married to, Kenna, you are going to love this. So you are beautiful and wonderful for many reasons. One of them is that you have things in common with Monica from Friends sometimes, right? Where like... no one that I know it closely and well has loved rules and structure as much as you, right? Like there's the episode where Monica's trying to like plan the games at the bridal shower, and she's like, but the rules control the fun. It's the right way to do it. Think of how great it is. So that's one way. But the other way is your deep love for anticipatory fun, right?
So much
when there's a
anticipatory
good
fun in my
thing
life.
on the horizon, you love the looking forward to it more than you typically love the thing itself, right?
Oh, I say more than. Like that feels...
So I have usually in charity poked fun at that little personality quirk for years now of yours, right? And now this week, my high is that I have fallen victim to the same temptation.
Yeah? What are you looking forward to?
So this weekend is Father's Day as we record here in 2023, right? And this year, Kenna, you had the great, brilliant idea on Mother's Day a month ago to approach Mother's Day in a way that we really haven't before, which is, so there's this funny, and you know this, Andy, there's like this funny cultural move that like on Mother's Day, Father's Day, all a mother and father want is to get away from the children that made them a mother or father, right?
Like I deserve a break.
Exactly, right.
I earned this day.
I'm tired of being a mother, so I'm going to spend a weekend not being a mother, and I'm going to have a wine vineyard weekend with my girls, or I'm going to go to Vegas with the boys, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So you had a good twist, and so on the other hand, though, it is nice for you to like, as a mother or a father, to have some joyful time with your family, maybe on your terms more than you normally do, right? So you found this good in between, which was doing little outings with pairs of our children throughout the course of the day, so that you get to do things that you enjoy with our kids, and they love being with you, kind of in a smaller group than usual, but you're also not just like running from the family and, you know, isolating yourself for a whole weekend. So, so this weekend we have a very, scheduled out social plan, right, with me and the children. So,
I want this now for myself.
So Saturday night, and you can appreciate this too, Andy. So with my older 2 kids, we've slowly been working up to the point now where I'm going to watch the OG Avengers with them on Saturday night, which I am excited about, probably even more than them, but they're excited too. On late Sunday morning after Mass, I'm going to take the 3 little girls on an outing to like a playground if the weather's nice, like a big fancy playground, like a cool one, or the children's museum if the weather's terrible. We're going to go out and have like donuts or something like that. Awesome. And then with the 2 middle boys, we're going to go on a hike after they rest in the afternoon and then have like ice cream or something like that. Kenna's going to make ribs for dinner on Sunday night. And then on Sunday night, you and I get our long-awaited date that you just talked about.
Good.
It's going to be so good. It's going to be the best.
That's going to be so awesome.
And here's the thing. All of that stuff is good, but this week has been a real high just looking forward to it.
Yes. Oh, that's so good.
Which is so frustrating to admit because I had to admit that you were right about something else, my bride.
So good.
But
I love that.
I wish you could see my bride gloating.
My victory
Your
dance.
dance. Yeah, exactly. Right. Enough of that. Oh my goodness gracious.
Welcome to the bride's side, baby.
I love that so much.
So before we get to the point where my high translates to the topic for tonight, Andrew Norton, who we have known for many years, people who are listening now, they don't know who you are. So give us a little bit of background. What gets you to where you are today? What have you done in life, in ministry, in work, in coming to a place where this topic is important to you? Give us a little bit of your story.
So I'm Andy Norton, and well, first and foremost, as far as you guys, we've known you for now like 6 years.
I think so.
Maybe 7 years.
Sounds
Yeah,
about
I think
right.
it predates teens.
Yeah. I mean, we like happened to move into the same neighborhood along with our friends, the drivers, and I think met you guys probably through them first and foremost. I would guess, and then have been in Teams of Our Lady together, and have just been friends, and I've seen Pat doing youth ministry around the archdiocese, and just all these things, parishioners at the same parish, etc. So that's been wonderful. But before then, I mean, I went to school at Franciscan University of Steubenville, and then I served for 4 years as a focus missionary at 4 different schools, which was really cool. And then I met my wife, Sarah, and we got married as we were going into into my 4th year of serving with Focus. And then after that, I had an opportunity to come up and work in the marriage tribunal here in St. Paul. And so we moved up to Minnesota kind of on a going out on a limb to do that. And we're like, we'll see how Minnesota is. Like, we'll see if we like it. Mm-hmm. And it really was the people that kept us here. People like you, who just, we fell in love with the community that we found here. And, so then we've been here. I worked at the marriage tribunal for 3 years, got my master's in theology from the Augustine Institute, and then started working at Net Ministries and worked there for 6 years. And then just recently, like last month, I left there and have been working as a product support developer for a tech company. So it's been like a really like huge change of like my day-to-day work.
Hard right turn.
Right, yes. But part of that it's been interesting because like, for a bit there, I was thinking like, I kind of want to try something different. Like I've been involved with, mission work and working for the church for so long. It's been so good. But I really was looking to, like, I've always been drawn to sort of very simple, sort of service-oriented day-to-day work. Like, I loved in high school, like, just working at an ice cream shop, that sort of thing. I loved that, like, the simplicity of, like, tell me what to do and I'll do it,
Yep.
Just let me serve somebody. So I was really feeling, like, a desire to do something simple like that, but also, like, something challenging and something new. But at the same time, I was still feeling a call to live out mission more than I even was, like do new things, reach people in new ways. And so I was feeling like this kind of joint call of almost wanting to do something that wasn't ministry oriented, but also wanting to go deeper in how I was serving the Lord and following his call in my life. And so the Lord really mysteriously and providentially, I think, worked in my life for the past year, where you guys were so amazing to invite me into working alongside you with the Martin Center to be able to speak and train with the Martin Center for integration at the same time as this other opportunity came up. And so I was able to be like, wait, so now I'm building out these opportunities where I'm actually serving the Lord and actually encountering people in new ways at the same time as I also have this way to also now do something very different with my work. And then just recently there's been this other kind of tool that Sarah and I have been using in our marriage that we'll be talking about tonight.
Yeah. So, awesome. That's great. Thanks for the background.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and I just want to say too, I reference the fact that from the beginning of thinking about the podcast, like we knew that we wanted to have you on as a guest, Andy. And I think part of what, stirred that desire in me is my experience of you and Sarah, like particularly as a married couple. We've known you and your marriage so intimately in a marriage prayer group together, in Teens of Our Lady. But just to see the way that you together like really pursue the Lord and like really orient your family and your life. I mean, even just your vocation story, your career story, like tells us that. So thank you. Like, thank you for the witness that you are to us, and the ways that you have taught us things just in the ways that you live your life. So we're excited to share that with our listeners.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I'm really excited that we like didn't do a podcast earlier, because I feel like earlier it was like, bring me on to like talk about, Marvel movies or,
right.
something like that. And then really in the past just few months, this other thing, this integrated pathfinding has become such a big thing in our lives, and I've been so excited about sharing it with people. And so I'm so excited that we're talking about that and not just like, where's God in, pop culture, which is a cool thing. I could do that all day.
Episode, a one-off, it'll be great. But I can acknowledge this is probably more valuable. Right. That's fine. That's no problem.
So maybe then we can kind of talk specifically about this integrated pathfinding, which is, going to be the crown jewel of our conversation today. And for a little bit of context, most of our listeners, Andy, are just in the hustle and bustle of life, right? Like they are juggling the multiple roles and expectations and duties. And so maybe just tell us a little bit about, beyond work, about your own life, marriage and family life, and what all you've got going there, because it is full, it is robust, it is rich.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, no, totally. So I'm married to Sarah, and we have 4 children.
How long have you guys been married?
10 years next month.
Woo-woo!
Yeah, in 2 weeks, July 4th. And
that's
so
right, you have such an American marriage,
right? Yes,
that's right,
absolutely. Yep, we do. I every July 4th, my friends will text me. They'll say, "God bless America," for my anniversary.
It's so nice for people to shoot off fireworks.
I was going to say, are you like, honey,
Yeah.
I got you these fireworks?
Yes, exactly.
Black cats
great.
again.
Great. It was so funny when we did it. It just felt like we was working out schedule wise, all these other reasons, but we really did have a deeper reason of like people have all sorts of ways they feel about the United States, and there's all sorts of legitimate reasons to have complex feelings about it. But the fact that July 4th stands for independence and freedom and liberty, I loved that we could set that in juxtaposition with marriage. And to me, I just had heard I'd seen so many people being like, oh, like you're just limiting your freedom by getting married. Why would you do that? Like so many people. And so for me, it was just a statement of like, no, I actually am, yes, I'm limiting my choices, but I'm more free to love, more free to do what I need to do in marriage than if, yes, I'm limiting the choices, but I'm actually more free. And so that was the reason. So yes. Again, the holiday itself may, for some people, have different things that they associate with it, but I wanted to set that as the meaning of it. So, and both of us, from the beginning, having met as missionaries, we really had a desire to live our marriage as missionary disciples. And that's been probably the defining thing of our marriage, has been that, because we really wanted to be a gift for other people, not just for each other, but for others, and have our family be a gift for other people. And so that's been a huge thing. And so not to drive it right back to the integrated pathfinding, but that's been a huge thing. So I really do think that this practice that we're going to share about in just a moment really has helped us to do just that, not just be there for each other in a deeper way or to have more personal fulfillment, but to really be more of a gift for others, both individually and as a family, which I just feel like is what it's all about.
So we've kind of we've pointed towards some of these big words and big ideas, right? The two big kind of key phrases are behavioral activation,
right?
And then what you and Sarah have developed as integrated pathfinding,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
So before we get to even maybe kind of defining those terms and explaining what that is, can you give us a little background about how you and Sarah got down this road? Like what what were the circumstances that led you to finding so much fruit from these kinds of things?
Okay, cool. Let's talk about it. So, so that, like you said, there's this idea of like integrated pathfinding, but before that, we discovered behavioral activation. How that came up was that actually, while Sarah was pregnant with, let's see, I think it might have been with Maddie. I think with Maddie, she had just a one-off meeting with like a mental health specialist. And in that meeting, she ended up learning about this practice called behavioral activation. And so she described it to me and she started using it a bit. But I remember the thing that stood out to me at the time was this idea of identifying positive behaviors that you wanted to increase and negative behaviors that you wanted to decrease. And so, for example, a positive behavior that she identified really quickly was seeing her friends. And a negative behavior that she found was she identified was just like oversleeping during the day. She was overwhelmed with life, with the kids, and she was just taking these like excessively long naps. And so, identifying like a couple things like that, she started to plan her week and say, all right, every week I really got to sit down and plan out, when am I going to see friends? And actually changing it from like, hey, I'm so stressed out this day, I really need support, I really need help, and texting people that day. Instead, actually earlier in the week, setting up times so that she could actually have that planned, could anticipate it and look forward to it with joy.
Anticipatory
right?
fun.
Yes, anticipatory
yeah.
fun. Yes. And then seeing like, hey, like I'm actually not coming out of these long naps feeling actually any more energetic and fulfilled. And so I need to actually limit that and realize, what am I running away from here? And where do I just need support that would actually better help me deal with what's going on? And so that was really great. I feel like she got a lot out of it. And she had like a cool worksheet that actually helped her like plan that, and that helps her look at her values and all of this. And so I really loved that she had that. And I started doing it for myself. She did it for like a little bit, and then kind of it made an impact on her, but she wasn't formally doing it anymore. But I came to a point where I was just feeling, hey, maybe that would help me as well. And so I took the worksheet that she'd been given and started actually just using that. And so I went through the pre-planning process that they had of looking at your past week and seeing, what are positive behaviors? What are negative behaviors? What are my values? And sort of this whole assessment. And I started utilizing that. But what quickly happened was I realized for me, it was really hard to plan out things like, oh, I need to go see friends, because I would feel like I needed to be around. I felt like I couldn't commit to actually just going and taking time for myself, because there's so much that the family needs, right? And so I felt like I wasn't able to do that. And so I would just fall back on like, well, if I can't go out tonight, I guess I'll just, watch Netflix and chill out by myself and do something that's actually not super positive for me. And so I was realizing I couldn't really do it by myself. And so then what happened really is I sat down with Sarah. I was like, can we just try doing this together so that we can actually agree on, hey, would this time actually work for me to do this? And so that's really kind of how it started, was that then we would sit down together and it was almost a little bit of tit for tat, or like, there was a sense that we had to get over of almost like, well, you get to do that, so what do I get to do? And it
Sure.
was almost a little bit selfish in that way at the beginning, but we really got past that and started to be an opportunity for generosity of like, hey, like I know you would really benefit from seeing friends, or what else do you have this week to look forward to that's going to be life-giving for you and really be something that builds you up and is like authentic self-care, where it allows you to enter right back into your responsibilities with joy and generosity. And so we started doing it together. We started sitting down on Sundays and planning out the week and seeing, where do I need to take time for myself? Where do I need to take time to meet with friends? What are the things that are going to be really, or what are the things that are really negative behaviors I want to decrease? And what are things that are not negative, but they're just hard, and I need support in actually getting these done.
Right.
And it's identifying those and just planning out our week. And so from there, we started realizing, whoa, we're actually doing behavioral activation together,
Mm-hmm.
but it was becoming this like whole new thing beyond what I think any like standard behavioral activation guide would tell you to do. So that's kind of how it came about. That's how we got involved with behavioral activation and went from there.
Yeah, I love what you're describing, Andy, about, I mean, I can see why you and Sarah have coined this integrated pathfinding.
Yeah.
Because it is weaving together, like, how can our needs come together? How can I support you, even like complement what you need? There really is that, like, knitting together, drawing together the parts of this family, especially the leadership of this family. The thing that actually comes to mind, Pat, I don't know if you think of this too, but when we were engaged, two parish ministers getting married, we were like a lightning rod for every pre-marriage retreat and program. Anyone who had a pilot program, they were like, "You two, come here!" Like,
tell us what you think.
Right. And so I remember the deacon at the parish where I was working, he gave us something that was called the sheet. I think that's what it was called. I don't know if we just, Pat had another name for it that you all can think about that was explicit. So I won't say it here because this is a clean podcast.
I want to hear about that later.
Clarity, I was early in my willingness to be emotionally vulnerable with my bride.
I'm sorry. I did not mean to incite your defensiveness. What I was saying is,
I'm so interested to know what this is called.
I'm just jogging your memory. Yes. But one of the things that they encouraged us to do was to express goals. Yeah. And they said, give 3 short-term and 3 long-term goals. And I'll never forget that the deacon said to us, it's not just like, oh, that's nice to know that you want to learn Mandarin Chinese. Like, it was because then when Pat is spending 45 minutes in the evening with his headphones on and his nose buried in a book, that maybe inclination to feel resentful or to feel slighted gets checked with, oh, that's right. Like, he has this goal.
Yes.
And I love him. And I love that desire of his to learn something and to, be culturally more aware or what have you. And I can support that. And so I hear a lot of that in what you're saying. It's this intimacy. It's this disclosure of myself, of what moves me, what refreshes me, and what renews me, so that I can, return as the mom and the wife, that you're all happy to see, and for Pat to come back as that husband and father. And so I just love that. Like, it's
we had
that
the same
disclosure.
experience of like, even taking time to just sit in the evening and pray. We felt like we didn't have the freedom to do that, because it'd be like, why aren't you helping clean up the house? Or why aren't you helping do this thing? Like, we both would have that kind of feeling of resentment towards the other when they were just taking time for themselves and for God. Like, but it was just because it wasn't, stated and clarified and planned at all. It was really hard to really know that they were actually doing that, and not just, being selfish for their time, or out of the blue to just be like, sorry, I got to take 45 minutes to pray. Doesn't seem like a charitable thing to do. And so it was so freeing to start to plan out our week in that way, and really sit down and realize, like, hey, it's actually really important that you get to adoration on Mondays. Like, and so I'm not gonna be resentful of that. Like, I'm gonna look forward to taking care of the kids that evening and supporting you as you go and do this. And so, it was great. And so, we did come up with that phrase eventually of integrated pathfinding, because we just realized, yes, this is behavioral activation, but we're doing it together, which is just very different. And just more and more things were kind of coming up that felt like it was not at all, in any secular guide to behavioral activation. We were being very generous with each other. And we were also, the whole focus of it was not just on what makes you happy, what makes you feel self-fulfilled, sort of all this sort of self-help type of ideas. Right, it was very much more towards really a faith-informed vision of, how am I actually living for others? How am I connecting with God? How am I fulfilling my vocation to holiness and to life in God and self-gift, all these things. And so we realized it was going beyond that. And we were actually, we would start our session in prayer and really asking Lord, where do you want us to go? What do you want from us this week? And we were totally including things we never would have included, just based off of even just a values assessment, sheet in terms of, like, how can we really live out our faith this week? What would that mean for us to really do that? Does it mean like getting to mass this week, or does it mean having some young people over for dinner and sharing our life with them? Like, it really has allowed us to be that much more intentional and following a path that the Lord has for us. And so we came up with the idea of pathfinding, which also to me I love, because I love discipleship, and it's discipleship is all about like following the path of the master, and it's very relational in that way. And I loved it too, because there's that idea of like being yoked up together, right, and following a path together. And that was definitely what we felt that this practice was allowing us to do, was that if we sit down on Sunday and really have a sense of where's the week going, and what do we want to accomplish this week, and all this, we really were getting yoked up together and going the same way, instead of imagining two, stubborn oxen, trying to pull at different directions. It's just not going to work.
Right.
And so the pathfinding phrase was great. And then the kind of integrated word was a great kind of adjective, just to both, because it was this idea of two people coming together and integrating together, and integrating under a third, person, really under God. And also then it allows it to actually have a nice acronym of IP, which is cool. So I'll call it pathfinding, and Sarah calls it IP, but really it is like kind of faith-informed behavioral activation is what it is. So to be clear, we came up with a phrase that and the idea of using it as a married couple and infusing it with faith. But I'm so thankful for the principles of behavioral activation that underlie it.
Because if behavioral activation is about an individual's attempt to increase or kind of grow in positive behaviors and try to like work against the negative behaviors, negative inclinations,
right,
then integrated pathfinding, it sounds like it's kind of integration in two ways. First of all, that it's integration between a couple, that a married couple comes together and they're able to better integrate themselves in their own sacramental marriage and to relate to each other better, to serve each other more clearly, but also integrating some of those faith principles as well,
right,
of integrating what does Jesus want from our marriage? What is Jesus calling us to do in order to serve each other, even in the funny kind of like seemingly mundane things of scheduling out our week, right? Like your example of Sarah scheduling time to hang out with a friend on Friday or Saturday.
Yeah.
That may be a very tangible way that the Lord is calling her to serve this week, right? Not only to serve her friend, but then to be refreshed, renewed, and be able to serve her husband and children more fully when she returns,
Exactly. Yep. And we'll actually, even in our schedule, I'll tag it with an IP on it, just to show like this is something that really has to do with it's something that's going to really kind of fulfill that definition of self-care that I love, that kind of shares about what I do for myself that actually allows me to enter back into my responsibilities and my duties with joy and with generosity. I love that. And that's really what that is. And so, the integration of faith. And so I really love behavioral activation. I think it could be a helpful thing for anyone, but it does, I think if you don't have a wider vision of the purpose of why we even live, like why is it good to be happy and to do these things and to be like living a fulfilled life, for what reason? If it's just for your own personal happiness, that's not the whole story.
I mean, we often talk about, kind of we're standing on the shoulders of some really great ideas that are out in the culture, and then we give them that transcendent purpose. I love the pathfinding piece of integrated pathfinding, because there's an end goal. Like, for us, it's that sanity and sanctity and it's holiness, and it's encouraging our spouse to heaven, encouraging our children toward heaven. So love that. It has this mission, written into the title of it.
You hinted at something, Andy, that I'm really curious about, at the idea of, it's the nature of the life of a Christian, that the same action can be done for good or maybe less than good intentions, right? So like something like the prodigal son is the perfect example, right? Like the older son stays home and he does the exact right actions. His behavior is flawless. He's serving his dad, and even says it at the end, like as like a trump card, like as a weapon. Like, I have served you. I've done everything you said all these years, and you never gave me so much as a dumb little goat for my friends and I, right? So like doing all the right things for the totally wrong reasons. And you kind of hinted at that idea that there can be this inclination in marriage, whether it's integrated pathfinding or just in normal marriage conversations, to do this like keeping tally, keeping score kind of thing, right? Like, well, you got to sleep in on Saturday, so when do I get to sleep in, right? Yeah. Like you got to go out with your friends on Friday night, so when's my turn, right? Yeah. And granted, if one person is only doing fun things and the other person is taking care of all the responsibilities, that is genuine imbalance, right? But outside of that, marriage is not this like scorekeeping 50-50, like you said, kind of tit for tat thing, right? So you mentioned getting out of that mindset, instead of coming at integrated pathfinding with the mindset of how can I be more, kind of fulfilled, self capable, things like that. Instead, shifting 2 degrees into how can I help my spouse get what he or she needs to be fulfilled, to be joyful, to be the kind of son or daughter that God made them to be, right? Was there a conversation? Was there kind of a hinge that had you kind of switch gears and look at integrated pathfinding out of that lens of service at some point?
Great question. Yeah, because I think it was as we were looking at it and really realizing, hey, this is going way beyond this original idea of behavioral activation, and we were starting to discern what were the key characteristics that were different, and we were realizing, well, what is the point of all this? Well, the point of our life is self-gift, right? I think John Paul II said, man only finds himself in a sincere gift of self. And that's just, for me, that's a huge, huge driver in my life. And I've seen it over and over again. Like that's what my life is meant for. And the more that I do that, the more my life is totally on mission. And the less I do that, the more I'm just clearly not living out what I'm called to do. And so I think just in those conversations, we were very quickly realizing something that we really wanted to do every week was finding space for what are we doing for others, and not just for each other, but really for others. And who are those people who we can serve? So we would schedule in like, well, who's the next person that we can help out with a meal train? Who's going through a tough time who we can help out with a meal train. We love, Sarah's a great chef. She's a great cook. We love having people.
I have been the recipient of many meal train meals from Sarah.
That is your love language, which we appreciate a lot.
Absolutely, especially in this economy. It's more and more of a gift. We were like, how can we help people in these different ways? And really, that was just it became a huge thing in how we were planning. And I think we just quickly realized, wow, this is what this is for. Like behavioral activation. It was really cool. It was really helpful, but it did ring a little bit of sort of cool. I'm happier. Like that's great. But like, if happiness is your goal, that can be actually really, I think kind of frustrating. Yeah. Because like you're not going to get to be perfectly happy. And so I think what's helped us is to realize, hey, the point of this, you will be happier. You'll be experiencing more, piece of the world as well as a piece of Christ. But the point of it is actually not to be happy. There are some weeks that we're not super happy, not super like having a great time, but we're really living out our purpose because we are serving each other, we're serving our kids, and we're serving other people, and doing that in a way that is integrated, that is not not just running ourselves dry and into the ground without a sense of where are we actually connecting with the source of life. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but
no,
there's
absolutely,
some thoughts there. Yeah.
No, there's a C.S. Lewis quote that I'm
Classic.
gonna butcher it a little bit,
No,
but
bring
yeah,
it in. No, bring it in.
exactly. It's very on
He's
brand.
a sponsor of this
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah,
I'm not sure if you know, but
If he is sponsoring this podcast from heaven, I would gladly take it. That'd be fine.
Prayer sponsorship. I'm sure he's there.
prayer sponsorship. Oh my gosh, I
It's
love
like
it.
the capitalist version of intercession.
Yeah, it's
just prayer sponsors. Oh my gosh. No, there's some quote that I'm going to butcher, but basically, like if you seek for happiness without truth, you will end up with neither. Right? Like
Right.
if you're chasing happiness for mere happiness' sake, you will end up unhappy because happiness was not meant to fulfill you. But if you seek truth and happiness together, then you will get both, right? Like that kind of idea that like happiness itself is not what we're made for.
Yeah.
So there are limits to what behavioral activation alone in a vacuum can provide because maybe there are parts of it that don't speak to what my soul truly desires.
I think so.
You know? Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that.
I want to go back to something that I heard you say in the beginning, Indy, when you were describing behavioral or integrated pathfinding, rather. And you were talking about, and it's so subtle, but it's important to me as someone who gets the privilege of working with a lot of couples. And you named the fact that the things that get priority, that you put on your calendar with an IP by it, and the things that Sarah puts on her calendar with an IP by it, that they're different. And this resistance to enmeshment and to the expectation that the things that, you know, fulfill you and move you and maybe are the highs of the week need to be the same as Sarah. And so just this permission for authentic personhood. And we are for sure about that here at This Whole Life and encouraging that. And so I'm wondering if there have been ways in which utilizing IP have actually allowed you to learn more about yourself, certainly to learn about your spouse, but yeah, just like continued self-discovery as your spouse gives you permission to show up at the fence post and to be real about the things like playing ultimate frisbee, which I don't know that I can see Sarah doing that. And so like, you know, that would be like an awesome thing that you would prioritize on the calendar. So just maybe, to share a bit about that journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's been a huge thing with it is that freedom to know that we're different. And sometimes the IP is going to be, you know, having a wonderful date together. You know, it's going to be really fulfilling for both of us. And other times it is, you know, me getting to go play frisbee and her getting to go paint with her friends, you know, and they're going to be different, and that's okay because we're different people. And that's been a huge thing for us because something I've experienced in our marriage, I've seen so many marriages, both among friends as well as working at the marriage tribunal, I think is this sense of, I see so many marriages struggle with either going to one end of things where they're so independent, and they don't even, there's a sense of almost, shouldn't you know that, you know, anything about your wife, or shouldn't you know like what they're doing right now? And they're living so independently that it just shocks me. I saw that a lot of that in kind of testimony at the marriage tribunal. People just can live very independently, even though they're married. But something I can see more of a tendency among committed Catholic couples maybe is a tendency sometimes towards enmeshment, where perhaps they're so integrated in a sense that the Venn diagram is so over top of each other that it's hard for them to have their own personhood, and it's really hard to get one of them away from the other to have maybe a guy's night, or, you know, or have, you know, that sort of thing. And so I think it's very much what you talk about, right? Where you want to meet them at the fence post, right? And not build a huge wall, be independent, but also not be up in each other's, you know, walking through each other's garden and stomping all over everything and having no boundaries at all. And so this has been really helpful for us, because I think it's helped us to really clarify those boundaries and really give space for each other to have like meeting at that boundary and really have what we each need. I I know it sounds very heady, but like, I really think even just practically, like you said, that's manifested when we're scheduling out the week. And some of the things are just very much one person's, and some of the things are very, very much both of ours. Some of them they are put on the calendar as something for the whole family, but we will actually have to be clear sometimes and be like, hey, I'm not going to love this thing as much as you might and the kids might. And so that helps us to get a sense of like, maybe I need to get a pick me up earlier in the week before we go to the splash pad, because I'm not going to love that necessarily, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, as I'm listening to you, I'm realizing what, really a level of security that IP would require of a couple, that might be a challenge if a couple is, struggling in that sense of security, safety, and assuredness, stability in the marriage. I mean, honestly, it really wasn't that long ago that I remember, Pat, coming home one night and maybe something happened. I think maybe I had like evening clients that canceled. Something happened where my schedule cleared. And I called you on my way home from the office and I was like, great news, babe. Like, can we go out tonight or can we, whatever I was proposing, like, what if I grab something for us to have a drink and watch? And I remember you saying, I gotta be honest, I just need a little bit of time alone. And I was like, what? And
you're choosing yourself over me.
And I mean, I think a lot of things happened inside of me. I hope what ended up happening was that I realized that you felt confident enough in our relationship and in my ability to not take that personally, that you could show up at the fence post and be honest with me about what you needed and what you wanted. And you believed that I loved you enough that I could be selfless, even though what I really wanted to do was like snuggle up with you and probably, watch The Crown or something. But but like that I could give you that gift and give you that freedom without guilt and without my own like pity party. I think truthfully, I probably like, called a friend and went and did something with them or, whatever. Like I was able to still let it be a night where I got what I needed as well. But I'm thinking about that, Andy, as you're describing it, like that requires a certain level of security. And I will not say that I always had that in our marriage. That is a gift that God has given me and He's healed a lot of things in me to help me get there. So as couples are listening, and maybe if they're like, what, this idea of differentiation and of having different activities and doing things separately, that like I hear you and I get it, because I really don't think it was that long ago that I was in that place where spending time apart, I couldn't conceive of how that could benefit our marriage. Right. Like I was like, I'll do it, but I'll be pretty pissed about it. Like in the meantime, I'll probably take it pretty personally that I'm not his end all be all. Totally. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Totally.
Oh yeah. Right.
No, it does.
Right.
Yeah. I do think though, if this is a encouragement to people listening, is that, I mean, Sarah and I are very intense. I don't know if people necessarily know that, like from just seeing us, or if they know this, I don't know. But we're very intense. We're both actually very strong-willed, and I think we both really want what's best for our families and to follow like what God has for us. But we're pretty intense about it, and I would say something I've always loved about our marriage and our relationship is that we'd rather fight it out than walk away and be like, okay, well, I guess we're going to be just, entirely
no lukewarmness in the Norton household.
No,
right.
Absolutely. I always think of that scene in Ratatouille where he like sees that couple fighting, like the gun like blasts through and almost shoots him. But then
I appreciate that you looked at me again for Ratatouille.
Yeah, exactly. I get it. But then they like fall into each other's arms and they love each other.
Right,
like I always am like,
that is how you all describe your conflict.
Yeah, that's how Sarah and I are for sure.
Pat and I always walk away after you guys talk about it. We're like, I can't see it, but I'm gonna take their word for it.
These two like kind, loving,
my gosh,
gentle
truly
people talking about like these like passionate arguments that lead them in the right direction. Like, I'll take your word for it.
No, it's like a daily constant thing. Yeah, and I love it. Actually, I really love it. But that's our dynamic, and I think I would say it's okay for it to be like you can try integrated pathfinding even if you are both passionate people who don't necessarily always see eye to eye naturally or that sort of thing. But I do think it really is important to have some essential pieces. Because for Sarah and I know something I learned actually in the book, Crucial Conversations, was this idea of when you have a crucial conversation, some of the things you need to have is you need to have a sense of mutual respect and a sense of mutual goals and essentially a safe place to be able to share to have a shared pool of meaning is what they call it. And I always found that really helpful in marriage was to have this sense of, okay, do we both feel respected, that we both like each other? We both have a mutual just liking of each other and respect for each other. And do we have a sense of that we trust that we both in the end actually have the same mutual goal, even if right now it's being expressed differently or having conflict of how to best achieve that.
Right.
And then from there, do we have a safe, the safety of just this, of sharing openly. And I think that we really have tried to pursue those pieces and come back to those. And when we're apart from that, sort of reconciling with each other and just really pushing hard to get back to that place of, hey, we like each other, and let's like each other and respect each other and have the same goals. And then we can have really intense conversations about what needs to happen and what I need or what you need. And we'll work through all that because we have that. So
yeah, no, I love that. And Dr. John Gottman, who we'll often talk about here, the way that he brings couples into couples therapy is by walking them through, tell me about how you met. And what he's really trying to do is help them recover this sense of liking each other. That, because he's like, if we're about to do hard things, and if I'm about to ask you to change your ways, and I'm about to ask you, to experience conversion of heart and habit, then you've got to remember who this is that you are working to be close to. And so I love that, Andy. I love that as the foundation, before the goal setting happens and before the generosity and the selflessness and the dying to self happens. We've got to believe, I've got to believe that you desire my good, that you truly love me, and vice versa. I've got to be able to say that, confidently about you.
Yeah. So then bringing this to the challenge by choice for this week to something that people can actually do and try and work on incorporating into their own lives. Andy, how would you describe a challenge by choice for folks who maybe want to take a first crack at integrated pathfinding in their own life?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I did put together a little PDF document, so we can share that on your website, right?
Yeah, in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Let's do it.
Yeah. So you can totally use that, check that out, and just kind of walks through step by step how to do it with sort of, the first things of setting the stage, finding a time, beginning with prayer, and then reflecting on your past week, identifying what brings you life and what challenges there are and avoidance behaviors, those sorts of things. Goes into the goal setting and the planning, and then the sort of how to check in during the week and support each other, and then how to reflect on it all at the end of the week. So the document is there for you to check out. So I would really encourage you try it out.
So this is a weekly. You would suggest frequency?
Yes. So yes,
weekly.
Good question. So we do it on Sundays. So it's kind of an after mass thing. We'll just shamelessly put the kids on a TV show and have the digital babysitter while we just sit down and do this. And to us, that's the important thing of the day, to allow the TV to watch over them.
So your kids love integrated.
Yes, they love it. Yes,
Ruth's two thumbs up.
Yes. Yep. And
Can you guys integrated pathfind more often, please?
Yes, exactly. And so we'll have that time. And it's a great time on Sunday to do that. And with that, maybe even just backing it up, we really see Sunday Mass just as an incredible opportunity to reconcile with one another and with the Lord. That's what the Mass is about, right? Is Jesus reconciling us to the Father and to each other. And so we really take the Mass as that moment. Then we come home and we've grabbed our coffee and we sit down and we have this kind of session of integrated pathfinding. And so that's when we'll do sort of the session, and your sessions at the beginning might take longer because you're really having more conversation about we're really assessing what are my needs and what are the things that I want to do less of, do more of, that are going to be hard this week. And so I need to build my support system around allowing me to have the bandwidth to do these things. And so those might take longer earlier on, and sometimes they'll take longer just randomly, but that's the session. And to be honest, it's really fun. Like, I love doing the session. It's like, you can see the self-growth happening and the shared growth. And it's beautiful. But then I suggest at least check in midweek, but I would say Sarah and I really check in almost daily on it and just really assess of, hey, we're looking at the week. What do we have today for IP? That's usually what the phrase will say, and really just spell out what we got going on. And even like that night, saying like, what's going on tomorrow? Cool. We got this. And so check in throughout the week, and maybe even sometimes having to stop and reorient, because things happen, right? Things come up. Kids get sick all the time, then it changes your plans. And so having sort of those check-in moments, especially when you feel like you need it, like even like right before coming over, I had a check-in moment with Sarah just to make sure that we both had a shared sense going into the weekend, what the weekend looked like and what the kind of IP things were and what we're looking forward to. And so I would say weekly. Sometimes it's helpful to set some things up like beyond the week. I know Sarah just today was mentioning, like, she's like, wait, do we have a party every day of next weekend? And so she was excited about that and has had some anticipatory fun already. I was like, yes, we do. And so that's how often I'd say to do it is meet on Sunday, check in at least once midweek, but honestly, check in as often as you need to. That's like the point of it, is check in as you need to. It might not be every day, but when you need to do it.
Oh, love that. I mean, I'm really excited about this. So thank you.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Also, I just have to say, like, I deeply admire your and Sarah's marriage. So anything I can do to like emulate the Norton marriage, I'm like, let's do it. Let's do it.
Encourage other people to do it too.
Yeah.
To have a Ratatouille marriage.
Ratatouille marriage. It is one of her favorite movies. She loves
it makes sense. She also loves New Orleans.
Yes,
so.
Yes, she
True.
does.
Yeah,
she
that's
does.
right.
Yes.
You know that takes place in Paris, right?
What?
It does. I was looking up at. It does.
Why do I think it takes place in New Orleans?
New Orleans is all about food. She does love New Orleans.
Wait, but New Orleans, the French Quarter.
Yes.
I can see. Oh my God.
There's a French connection for
It's
sure.
not much better.
Andy, thank you for trying to bail me out. My husband is shoving me further under the bus. And Andy's like, no, wait, but hold on. There's a way that kind of makes sense. And Pat's like, nope. She's just culturally inept.
You're not culturally inept. It's just when you start talking about movies, you're out of your depth. That's all I'm saying.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Hey man, you quiz me on Julia Roberts. I am there. I will go toe to toe.
Before this pivots into a Julia Roberts trivia night, we should
pray.
pray
Okay.
and send our good listeners off to do a little integrated pathfinding of their own, or to watch Ratatouille.
Yes.
That classic American
Tell me how it goes.
movie.
That classic New Orleans Cajun film.
Oh my gosh!
Oh.
All right. Lord God, we thank you so much for your goodness and your love, for the ways that you call us to be your disciples, to grow in love and in the freedom that you desire for us, to serve, to give, and to find ourselves in your heart and in the service that you call us to. We pray for your guidance and your wisdom to reign over us as we seek out this process of finding the path that you have laid out for us, of seeking and following you in the process, and of being connected to the people that you have called us to partner with in this life, whether it be a marriage or engagement or whatever that relationship might be for us. Lord, help us to decrease so that you might increase, and at the same time to be attentive to our needs so that we might respond with generosity, with joy, and with readiness when opportunities come for us to serve well. Lord, please give us your blessing. Bless Andy and his family. Bless all of our good listeners and help us to walk this journey with you and with one another. We ask all this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Andy Norton, thank you, my brother, for being with us.
Thanks so much for having me.
It's a great
Long
blessing.
time coming. I hope it's not the last.
Yeah, long time listener, first time caller. This is so fun. This is so fun. Thanks for having me, guys.
Oh
Long
my
time,
God.
first time. You bet. Yep.
And thank you to all of you, our listeners, for joining us once again. Check us out on Facebook and Instagram at This Whole Life Podcast. Let us know, how is Integrated Pathfinding going for you? What are the things that are tripping you up? What are the benefits? What are the graces that are coming from it? You can reach out to us online at thiswholelifepodcast.com and send us a note. Keep us in the loop of what's going on with you in this life of sanity and sanctity. So until next time, God bless you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
You're not alone. You're not alone.
This Whole Life is a production of the Martin Center for Integration. Visit us online at thiswholelifepodcast.com.
You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone. You're not alone.
And go watch Ratatouille.
Yeah.
You have to edit that out.
Not a chance.
You.
Heck.